Welcome to On the Sidelines with Sab. I'm Savannah, and I have with me a Stanford football updates whose name is actually Alex. He joins me tonight on the show. We're going to talk all things Week 3 ACC recap. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thanks, Savannah, for having me. Really appreciate it. I'm absolutely looking forward to the show.
Awesome. I am so happy you're here. I told him before I started the show, I was going to tell everybody how we met, which is so funny because I feel like everyone knows that I'm like a Stanford hater, but y'all have gained my respect, especially on the timeline, because on ACC Takeover Day, I was talking the most trash about Stanford, going all in on how I love Cal. And honestly, Alex took it like such a champ that I literally gained so much respect for them. And I'm like, you know what? He could be on my show. You know what? I'm pretty happy you guys upset Boston College. It's just so funny how things change.
Yeah, it was a crazy day. It was, I think this was month 1 or month 2 of me taking over the account. I had aimed to be more public, and I had heard some really good things behind the scenes about Stanford football this year. And so I kind of was out there brazen about, my fandom. And so when I stumbled across you, I was like, oh, I better say something. And so that's so.
Yeah. No, I love it so much. Like, there is nothing better than when someone can just like take the joke or like laugh at it. Like, it makes Twitter way more fun.
Oh, for sure. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. The first game of the weekend was on Thursday, and I was actually at that game. We'll just go game by game. My dad's game. Decided to go last minute, best decision of my life, and I think it really gave us everything that we could have asked for in a midweek. Tell me something that hits better than a midweek college football game. In the first quarter, there was the return for a touchdown off the kick return. The food truck caught on fire, and then there was a thick six. So, it was just hilarious how much happened in that first game on Thursday. Honestly, Hollywood Smothers did great. The offense did great for NC State. I know people like to say it's not a rivalry game, but it is. It's one of the Tobacco Road games. It's tough to play them week 3. NC State historically has a really hard time winning games in Wake Forest. And so honestly, big win for the Pack. Do you have any thoughts on that game?
Oh yeah, I watched that game. I was actually in the States when I was watching that game. I live in Toronto right now. But I was very unfamiliar with the NC State Wake Forest rivalry and how crazy those games are. Yes. I generally have a very low opinion of Wake Forest. I love Jake Dickert, their head coach, but that program's kind of been in the dumps for a while. And so when I saw that they were giving it to NC State in the first quarter, I was like, what's going on? Hence the tweet of what's going on. And then all was right in the world at the end.
It was so funny too. If you guys didn't see the tweet, it was Alex literally was like, what is happening? And I was like, are you new here? And then he was like, yeah. Like, wait, that's actually big fact. You are definitely new here, so it totally made sense. But yes, everything worked out in the end. Thankfully, that was one I was really worried about. All right, on Friday, we also had an ACC game. We had Colgate at Syracuse. What were your thoughts on that game?
It went about as I expected, it should have expected. Fran Brown clearly had his team ready to play after an aberration of a week last week. I know everyone wants to put respect on UConn's name. I don't. And so, look, Steve Angeli, did what he was supposed to do. They took care of business. I don't take too much stock in how many points Colgate scored. They were playing against second stringers by halftime. So there's not much for me to take away from this game besides Syracuse took care of business against a really bad opponent. So
yeah. No, it's I was talking about it the other week with my friend TJ. He covers Florida State. they didn't play with their food, is how he said it. He's like, they don't play with their food. They win the game, they win outright, they do what they need to do, they got it done. I completely agree. And I like what you said about not taking too much stock in the points that they scored. Because the other thing too is that I think people forget to realize that, like, for those teams, like, they have nothing to lose. So they're just gonna try whatever they can, whatever trick play. Like you said, they go up against the second stringers half the game. So yeah, absolutely. All right. This was one of the biggest this was a good weekend of ACC football, to be honest. So this was one of the ones that, like, people were ready for, only because I think everyone was underestimating USF so much going into this season. But we had USF at Miami, to a ranked matchup. USF was ranked 18th, Miami was ranked 5th. Carson Beck popped off. Miami beat the hell out of him 49-12. What are your thoughts on that game?
Man, the Miami defense last year was less than stellar. And I have been consistently impressed this year with the Miami defense. Carson Beck did what we all thought Carson Beck would do against a non-power 4 team. I think that I heard on College Game Day that, in the predictions that they were saying that Miami would pay attention to this game by the sheer fact that USF beat Florida last week. But it was really funny for me to watch that game. And so they were absolutely right. Mario Cristobal had his guys ready to play. They did not play like this was a trap game. I felt like Miami has fallen into the trap game habit in recent years. They did not do it this week, which was really, really nice to see. I'm excited to see what they do with the rest of the season. They should be a top 3 contender in the ACC, hands down, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into this week, their AP poll ranked number 4, so obviously the highest rated team in the ACC. I think what's most interesting about that game is that USF lost to a very good Miami team, and they fell out of the AP top 25.
I have so many thoughts about that. There is so much wrong with the AP poll this week. Notre Dame should not be in the AP top 25. I think this is, but I watched enough college football that I'm like, this is just such a classic college football thing that did happen. And it doesn't surprise me. I will scream about it because USF is a top 30 team for sure, hands down. And I've watched a lot of college football this year, but you know what? They got beaten by Miami bad enough that the AP thought that they should be out of the top 25. I disagree with it, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I think they might find themselves back in the top 25 eventually throughout this year, for sure. All right. Absolutely. The other biggest ACC matchup, I'd say, of the weekend. It was interesting because I didn't get to see most of it. I was actually at Georgia at Tennessee, and I know some people have questions, but to me, the SEC runs through Georgia, and I guess that begs the question: does the ACC also run through Georgia? Because Georgia Tech upset Clemson. What are your thoughts on that game?
Wow. That was a top quality college football game. It felt like I was watching two top 5 ranked teams go against each other. It just felt like one of those games. It felt like a heavyweight boxing fight.
Yes.
Haynes King did what we all thought Haynes King would do, which is show up in the big moments. And he's an absolute gamer. As Pat McAfee would say, he's a dog. The Georgia Tech defense came to play in key moments. They limited Cade Klubnik's running. They really limited the DBs. The secondary did a great job on Wesco overall. I know Wesco had a big game, but he could have had so much of a bigger explosive game. But it was a heavyweight boxing fight. One thing that really stood out to me was, in Brent Key's press conference, he said that Haynes King told him with 2 minutes left to go and he had the ball. He said, "I'm going to drive and win this thing." He damn sure won that thing. I would say that Georgia Tech should be ranked higher than 18. That's just me. The ACC runs through Georgia Tech, and I'm willing to put my stamp down. They will be a college football playoff team.
Love it. Love it. I was a Haynes King Georgia Tech truther going into the season, and I was not sold on Clemson going into the season, and I got a ton of crap for that, but I knew something was off. Yeah, I love what you said about King on that last drive. He converted a pair of third downs with his legs, just like there's a will, there's a way making them happen. I think it's remiss of us if we don't call out Aiden Burr, the 55-yard field goal attempt as time expires. That's the way to get it done. That's the way to get it done, honestly. That is I can't remember. That was the 7th ranked ACC win for Brent Key, which that's crazy. He's only been the coach there for like 3.5 years, 2.5 years, 3.5 years.
Yeah. Look, I that field goal made me think of lots of great kickers that have gone through the football ranks. I mean, the most recent one is Brandon Aubrey and on the Cowboys. They deserve, in the Georgia Tennessee game, Kirby Smart said in his post-game interview that Tennessee deserved to win the game. Georgia Tech absolutely deserved to win this game. They were definitely the better team they were definitely the better team. I just love the way they play offense, the way they clamp down on defense. And if you have a kicker that's kicking 55-yard field goals, they're going to go really far.
Yeah, the Tennessee kicker could have used that field goal accuracy in the game that I was at. He missed like a 36-yarder. And then immediately after in overtime made the exact same yardage kick from the exact same spot. So
yeah.
Joys of college football. That was a great game. That was a great noon kickoff. I didn't believe it when I saw it because, like I said, I didn't have the best service in Neyland, but it was amazing. I watched the last 3 minutes on the TVs and everyone was in shock. All right, next up we have William and Mary at Virginia. UVA won 55-16. What are your thoughts on that game?
UVA played it smart. They didn't show much, and they beat William and Mary is not a respectable team. I will say I am a little more paying more attention to the fact that William and Mary scored 16 points than Colgate scoring 21 points off of Syracuse. But again, this should have been a 40-point win. It was a 40-point win. Virginia got to play their second string offense, and they showed absolutely nothing going into Stanford. Their game against Stanford, and so it's that's what I think.
Do you guys have them at home, or do you guys go to UVA?
We're going to UVA.
You know what? Let's talk about that game now. I underestimated you guys because you had to travel the horrible 3 time zone difference, which really does matter. Like, it makes a difference. And truthfully, that's the main reason I picked Boston College to win. But you guys have done it once. Who's to say you won't do it again this week at UVA?
So I will say, Sab, the Stanford Boston College game was at home, which played. I would say it did play an advantage. Bill O'Brien in his presser said that it wasn't an advantage. I'm sure it was a slight advantage. Stanford has a really good system in general when it comes to playing these games, but they suffered from going to Hawaii, I will say, earlier in week 1, which really sucked.
And that is why that is why I picked Boston College. For some reason, I thought it was at Boston College.
No, and you know what? You were not alone in the sense of you picking Boston College. It was definitely everyone thought that BC would blow out a pretty hapless-looking Stanford team that really can't generate much offense. Who will not be able to stop Dylan Lonergan, who people thought was going to be a Heisman watch for whatever reason. No, Stanford was able to dominate in the trenches And
Let's go.
that made all the difference. You know, Sam, I really wish that I had your hat of run the damn ball, because that's
I'll
what
get you
Stanford
one.
did.
I'll get
Thank
you
you.
one.
I appreciate it. But yeah, because that's what Stanford does. That's how Stanford beats good passing teams.
Yeah.
And they because we are able to play cover 2 on defense and rely on a front 4, while that will wear out the opposing offensive line, while taking a ton of time on the offensive side by running the damn ball. You know, I've spoken about it all throughout the weekend. I can't say it enough. Michael Ford is the truth. He is running for 175 and a touchdown, is insane. Especially when you thought about how the game started. Stanford could not get anything going on the ground. And it was the fact that he was able to gain most of those yards in the second half is pretty crazy. Also a testament to the O-line really wearing down the opposing D-line. I think that Ben Gulbranson made some really good throws. It's clear that he's not the greatest when it comes to when he gets blitzed. He really has to rely on his O-line and his running backs to pick up the protection, which they did this game for the most part. There is obviously room to improve, but they did for the most part pick up the blitz. And Ben was able to set his feet and throw some really, really nice passes. The one that I'm most impressed about was the 69-yard touchdown to Sam Roush. He rolled to his right, got off his first read, was able to throw it on the dot to his second read, and Roush, who the safety tried to go for it all and ended up missing it all. But yeah, and then obviously I can't heap any more praise on the defense than what I have already. Holding a Dylan Lonergan-led offense to 0 points in the second half is absolutely crazy. Matt Rose played out of his mind. Zach Johnson, also a very honorable mention, making a ton of tackles and a sack. They're Colin Wright locking down Lewis Bond is really, really difficult, and even including having a pick six. Can't say any more about the Stanford game. It was a great win. We're facing a similar opponent in Virginia in terms of how they play their offense. I expect them to continue the momentum.
Yeah. No, I think that is exactly what that win was. A good momentum building block for you guys. Definitely. And to hold them to only 20 points when the week before they scored 42, 45, something like that, like great job on defense for sure. A team that's on the trending downward. Y'all are trending up, but I think that SMU might be trending down. With their CFP appearance last year, and then they're at Missouri State this last weekend. They won 28-10, and no credit where credit is due. Missouri State is not a bad non-P4 team. But what were your thoughts on that game?
They didn't show up in the first quarter. Rhett Lashley got on them, and then they showed up the rest of the game. They cannot afford to make those mental mistakes in the big moments against top ACC teams. They'll get away with it with a team like Virginia Tech, Wake Forest. Some may say Stanford before this game. But they cannot get away with that against the Miamis of the world, against the Georgia Techs of the world. They'll lose the game. Kevin Jennings has not looked as sharp. I think that personally, in my humble opinion, the lack of Rashard Smith really, really hurts him. I think that the SMU defense has not looked good. It's really, really not good. And if SMU can't win shootouts, that's a huge problem, because that's what Rhett Lashley's philosophy is based on, winning shootouts. And so big concerning. They did end up taking care of business. They cannot have that same game against any other ACC opponent, because including Virginia Tech. I mean, we all laugh at Virginia Tech right now, but it's like we can't. They can't have that against a Power 5 opponent. It's not going to work.
Yeah, no, totally. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, just kind of disappointing the fall off. Speaking of disappointing, Pitt at West Virginia.
Oh, yeah, very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. I yeah, I was pulling for Pitt.
Me too, of course, the ACC.
Yeah, I said at the beginning of the year on my preview with What Just Means Less that Eli Holstein's the truth, and he was, except for a horrendous pick in the end zone. Horrendous. But
Yes.
no, this was honestly, I will say this was a very, very classic Rich Rodriguez win, which is they lose to Miami and Ohio the week prior, and then they come back and they beat someone that they really have no business in beating in Pitt. Pitt could not run the ball. That's a huge, huge, huge problem when you have Desmond Reed as a running back. And so if Pitt can't run the ball, that's huge, huge problems on the offensive side. And then the defense went completely AWOL in the second half.
Yeah, 100%. Just super disappointing. I talked a lot of crap this summer about how I'll always be rooting for Pitt in the backyard brawl. And then for this to happen, like you said, in typical Rich Rod fashion. So just really, really upsetting, honestly. Equally as upsetting is, for me personally, is UNC winning. They beat a not good Richmond FCS team 41-6. Gio Lopez threw for 120 yards. I don't know. I think it might be one of their few wins of the season, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I agree. This changes absolutely nothing in terms of how I view UNC after their first game. I have not seen enough. Their second game, they didn't look good. The third game, week 3, they're always going to look good against an FCS opponent, unless you're Stanford 2 years ago losing to Sac State. Yes, I had to throw in a joke there. I still maintain what I said in the beginning, which is their offensive line is going to kill them throughout the year when they face competent defenses, like Miami, like Georgia Tech, like even Clemson, like Stanford, like Cal. Like it's not going to look good.
No, it's not. I will say this. I will say that Bill Belichick did say before game 1, they did like a ESPN 30 for 30 on him. And they're like, "Oh, are you ready for game 1?" And he was like, "No, absolutely not." He's like, "You never know what you're going to get." And I'm like, you know what? At least a man knew. I don't love personally, I love the no vote of confidence. That works for me because I'm an NC State fan. But if my head coach said that, I'd be like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah.
So, just interesting. I think really, it was disappointing in the ACC this week against non-conference opponents. We had Pitt lose. We also had Duke lose to Tulane with Darian Mensah, the quarterback who transferred there from Tulane.
We all kind of thought that this could be an upset. We
Yes.
all had a feeling. Tulane's good. I mean, Tulane was not good until they got a competent quarterback in Jake Retzlaff. And no matter how many potential jokes I can make about Jake Retzlaff being on Tulane, they look like a great offense. Duke just does not have a good defense. They're going to get shredded by JKS. I'll just say that even as a Stanford fan. They're going to get absolutely shredded by JKS if they cannot contain two, I'd say, average offenses in Tulane and Illinois. And so, forget Darian Mensah for a second, because I think Darian Mensah actually had a decent game. But their defense is just their defense is just not good.
Which is so surprising because truly Manny Diaz is like a defensive mastermind. Like he's a wizard. So I'm like, is it because they lost so much in the transfer portal when Mike Elko left? Like, where is the mix up? Is it because people don't want to go to play football at Duke? Especially if you're choosing a school in North Carolina, it's probably not the first choice. And that's not me saying that as an NC State fan. That's just like if I think about it in general, that's just the truth. So it's really odd to me that they're not good because that's his bread and butter. That's Diaz's bread and butter. So yeah, I'm not surprised that they lost though, unfortunately. I did say that I thought Tulane would win and they did. It's just a really, again, bad look for the ACC. Speaking of bad look for the ACC, it only gets worse when we talk about
I know where you're going with this.
ODU belt to ass Virginia Tech at home. So bad that they fire their head coach the next day.
Yeah, I don't. I did not expect Virginia Tech to look like this ever. No. To begin the season, I actually thought that they were really good. I was decently high on Kyron Jones. I have made a few jokes amongst my friends that the VTech Stanford game last year would have gone much differently if Stanford had Ashton Daniels as opposed to Justin Lamson at quarterback. Half joke, half not. But no, this was VTech's year. This was the make it or break it for Brent Pry.
Yeah.
And going down 28-0 at half is embarrassing. Embarrassing. At Lane Stadium against Old Dominion of all teams. Brent Pry looked lost that game, and for someone who was the Penn State defensive coordinator, that's a really terrible feeling if you're a Virginia Tech fan. Now, do I think that Virginia Tech is as bad as they've looked? No, maybe they are, but no. I'd like to think that Kyron Jones will carry them in a couple games.
Yeah.
Along with their, they have a great. They should have a decent offense. They did score 25 points. And so, but man, like their defense sucks. It's like their defense sucks. They lost to. I mean, Old Dominion is not a real football team. Sorry. It is poetic that Brent Pry started his tenure losing to Old Dominion and lost his last game as a Hokie football head coach against Old Dominion. I saw the shot at halftime of Lane Stadium and it was a quarter full, and I said, man, that's what these schools in California should look like, not Virginia Tech, not Lane Stadium. Look, pathetic. But they are not UCLA, and so I'll leave it at that.
That is so true, and I'm sure that they'll have like a renewed confidence going into this week and energy with whoever their interim head coach ends up being. Obviously, Brent Pry solidified his tenure as the head coach of Virginia Tech with a win over Virginia. Unfortunately, when my dad coached there, that was very terrible. So I mean, I'll never root for coaches to get fired just because of my personal situation. And I think most people feel that way, but like, it's just a bummer, man, that it didn't work out. But they look, and like, don't get me wrong, ODU is one of those schools that like, they might beat a bad P4 team, but like, it didn't even look like Virginia Tech wanted to play the game.
No, they quit at halftime. It was really bad. Like, I don't know. If you told me 5 years ago that a Virginia Tech team would quit at halftime, I'd go, "You're crazy." Yeah. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Never in my wildest dreams, something along the lines of that. That's, but they quit at halftime, and then they came out looking better, but I don't know. I'm trying to justify it. They gave up another 17 points in the second half. I mean, it's unbelievable for a defensive minded coach to give up 45 points to a non Power Four team, much less old. I mean, like Old Dominion's had a really good start to the season relatively. They lost in a close fashion to a ranked team. They beat the team that they should beat. But I don't know. I never would ever think that Virginia Tech should ever lose to Old Dominion, just in that fashion. I think it's one thing to lose that game, and yes, I think we all kind of thought if Virginia Tech lost this game, Brent Pry would lose his job. But in that fashion, made it so much easier for the administration to say, no, we got to let Brent Pry go.
Yeah. No, I like I said, I hate talking about that because it could always be my dad next, but I think you're right. And it's unfortunate too. Some of the other ACC coaches were asked about it in their their pressers today. And they all just were like, hey, I don't really know much about it because you're so focused on your own program. But hey, it sucks when you don't get to finish what you started. And I'm not saying that Brent Pry was about to turn it around and they were going to win out, but yeah, I mean, the whole thing is it's just a bummer. And I agree with you. There's never a time in my life where I thought that this would be the standard of Virginia Tech football. Like growing up, this would have never been an option. Yeah.
Put it this way. Last thing I'll say, I expected UVA's head coach to get fired before Brent Pry.
Tony Elliott. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Tony Elliott would be gone before then.
Yeah, I would never root on either of their downfall, but I can see a world where people believed that. Absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy. I tweeted a joke the other day that really pissed off UVA fans, and I don't know if you knew this, Alex, but my dad coached at UVA for a very long time, like 10 years.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. And it happened to us twice. We lost to Virginia Tech with an interim head coach that secured the job after they won that game. Justin Fuente and Brent Pry. And so I tweeted and I was like, damn, now some freaking interim is going to beat the shit out of UVA. And this was like UVA's year, right? It's in Charlottesville. Virginia Tech is trash. And now they have some interim. And I'm like, oh my gosh, history repeats itself. Like, please do not let this happen again. But yeah, no, Virginia fans were not happy about that one. But I was like, I lived this for so long. I get to have dark humor about it. But yeah, just super disappointing. Finishing it off because FSU did have a bye this week. So the last game that we had was the only team who played a non-conference game who didn't disappoint us. And that is Minnesota at Cal. Cal won 27-14. JKS might be the quarterback of the future at Cal. People are trying to poach him already.
So I said at the beginning of the season that, yes, I think he's a stud. Do I think that he would show it this year? Absolutely not. It is exceedingly rare that true freshman quarterback look really good. I'm for example, I'm looking at Bryce Underwood. He's very, very highly regarded. He looks okay, you know. I'll put the Cal hate watch hat aside, but no, it was a very, very impressive win. Now, yes, Minnesota was missing their star running back, but Minnesota really looked like they couldn't generate anything on offense. JKS took care of the ball, and that's all you can really ask for in a true freshman quarterback, much less someone making throws like him. I think that Nick Rolovich, Brian Harsin have done a really good job with this offense. They've really simplified the offense for JKS. It's snap, 2 seconds, throwing the ball to his first read. And sometimes it gets really predictable, but for someone who is very inexperienced, it's the perfect system to be in. They look really good. I think their O-line looks much better than they did last year. Much, 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 much better than they did last year. But I also do think I think that this was their first test in terms of the O line, and they passed it pretty well. I think that I can't say enough about Kato Olave. He's a gem on the defense. Hezekiah Masses is a lockdown defensive back in your secondary. People are tweeting Cal may make 10 wins, and I don't see it happening, but there is a world that it can happen. I think there is a sneaky top 5 team in the ACC right now. But like I look at their strength of schedule and I go, man, their big games were Minnesota and Louisville, and and SMU, and they've won one of them, which is Minnesota.
Yep.
And so it's great win for them, great win for that program, great win for that fan base who's been needing some sort of spark for a very long time. But I also have to question the way Minnesota played defense or Minnesota prepped against Cal. I think no one's prepped for JKS properly up to this point.
Yeah, I think he's one of those quarterbacks where it's like you said, you can only really expect so much out of a true freshman quarterback. It's just the fact. A great example is CJ Bailey at NC State last year. He did good. He did fine. He did fine. He did exactly what you would expect out of a true freshman. And JKS has done really well. I appreciate the shout out to the offensive line. The offensive line coach at Cal is basically my dad's prodigy. I love Famika. Famika and I went to college together, so I have some funny stories from our time at Brigham. But yeah, I've said it once and I'll say it again. I think that in the offseason, Justin Wilcox, that's the head coach's name, right? Am I saying it wrong?
Yes, that's Justin
name.
Wilcox.
Okay. I think he put together a master class of a staff. He really did. He got the right people on board, and I'm sure this is so hard to hear as a Stanford fan, but he did. I mean, don't get me wrong. You guys actually did some pretty good staff moves as well. But yeah, it's nice to see it. It's nice to see the California programs be better than they have been. You guys had a good week this year, and a good week this week, and I can appreciate that as a California native. I love it. So yeah.
No, yeah. And I will say, and I think it's very, very well known, my disdain for the Calgorithm. It's extremely well known to this point. But no, I think that, it took a long time for Wilcox to find his groove as a head coach.
Yeah.
He's a very, very fortunate that the program he's in allowed him to grow into the head coach that he has become.
Yes.
He game plans right. He finally this year got his staff right. It took a long time. He did not have the right staff for many, many, many years, and it was a lot. And he made a lot of mistakes. But I think a ton of credit has to go to Ron Rivera. I think that the GM Ron Rivera has really, really, really changed the program, turned around the program. I'm excited to, as a Stanford fan, to have hopefully really, really strong rivalries between Luck and Rivera, Stanford and Cal, because Stanford is going to turn around their program. I just know it from knowing insider information. And so it's great, and I'm praying that both Micah Ford and Jaron Sangapolotele never transfer and don't get poached or tampered by other programs, because those are two offensive juggernauts, and I'd love to see them do battle with each other for years to come.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I hope that the ACC and specifically Stanford and Cal are in a place to make sure that those people stay at their school. I saw some tweets today. They were like, Cal doesn't have money to keep JKS, and I'm like, people think that the Northern California schools are poor. They're not poor.
I'll say this. Couldn't be farther from the truth in terms of Stanford and Cal.
Yeah.
I think people are holding on to this mentality pre-GM that we're both of us don't have money. I'll tell you this right now. Cal football just received a really, really generous donation. Yeah. They raised a really, really successful fundraising round under Rivera. Stanford is Stanford. This is insider information. Stanford is in the process of raising a very, very successful fundraising round over David Booth's donation to Kansas amount
Nice.
headlined by Joel Lacob.
Nice.
Both those teams are going to have money to spend. Both of those programs are going to have money to spend, and their first priority is to keep the players that they do have. So
Yep.
JKS, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Stanford fans. I'm sorry, Blue Blood program fans. JKS, in my humble opinion, is not going anywhere, and I'm a Stanford fan.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I love it. I will, like I said, I may give you a hard time on the timeline, but at the end of the day, it's ACC over everybody. So I hope that they stay also. And I think that you guys both have a shot to keep the people that you need to keep on your rosters this year and years to come. All right, so we end week 3. We start week 4 with Miami ranked number 4, Florida State ranked number 7, Georgia Tech ranked number 18. Those are our 3 teams in the top 25. What matchup are you looking forward to? Well, we'll end with this. What matchup are you looking forward to most this upcoming weekend?
Oh boy, lots of really good matchups. I think that for me, I can't take my eyes off of Florida State. I know it's crazy because West Coast fans, we have like a serious disdain for Florida State right now, given what they tried to do to not allow us into the ACC.
Yeah.
I can't take my eyes off of Florida State for sure, and I can't wait to see what they come out of the bye week with. And as I said, Thomas Castellanos is the truth. He's the truth, and I can't wait to see him ball out.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to, this is like Homer of me, but I'm looking forward to my dad's game. It's the 4th week in a row that they basically have to play a rival. I know people are like, ECU is not a rival. They are. They're an in-state rival.
They are.
We already had to play one of the Tobacco Road teams. We're about to play the second. UVA is a personal rival because of my family situation. So I'm excited for that. Outside of that, I'm really excited for Syracuse at Clemson. And look, that's not to say I'm not excited for Florida at Miami. I just genuinely think that Miami's going to steamroll Florida. So I am excited for Syracuse at Clemson. I don't think Syracuse is good. I think Fran Brown is a good coach. I think that they're going to be great. I don't think this year is their year, but I don't think Clemson is good either. So I see a world where Syracuse goes in there and beats Clemson.
Yeah, I totally and completely agree with you. I definitely see a world where Syracuse beats Clemson. I totally agree with you on Fran Brown. I've been a Fran Brown truther since the beginning. I thought it was a fantastic hire. I would say that this would be very different if Fran Brown did not have Steve Angeli under center, because I think that having an experienced vet go into Death Valley is so important. And you're catching a Clemson team that's absolutely reeling. I mean, it's absolutely reeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I myself will be at UNC at UCF. I live in Central Florida, so I always go to one hometown game. Generational hate watch for me, but I do think that UNC will win this one. So it'll be interesting to see. But that is our week 3 ACC recap, a little bit of what we're looking forward to in the weeks to come. Alex, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Where can we find you? Where can we follow you? Give us all the deets.
Yeah, so you can follow me on 2 platforms. I have Twitter X at StanFBallUpdate. And then you guys can follow me on Instagram at StanfordFootball.update. I am very active on both. I am more tamer on Instagram than I am on Twitter. I will say that for the record.
Yeah, we all are.
But I pump out a ton of social media content. Everything Stanford related. I'm your guy.
Yeah, awesome. Definitely follow along on Twitter. Like I said, we met when I was talking crap about Stanford, and he took it like a champ and was hilarious and came right back at me. So, like I said, thanks for being on the show tonight. This was On the Sidelines with Sav. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.